There was a point in my life where I was sleeping in my car.
Maybe we would start off with your origin story, because you weren't always Robert Love, Dr. Robert Love, guy with 5 million followers.
My first thing didn't work. My first thing was chocolate. And then I woke up one morning and I had like 1,000 followers on TikTok. I said, how did this happen? I would pray for guidance. And I do that a lot more now, and I find it very helpful. I find it extremely helpful. And it gives me peace, it gives me clarity about my decisions. When things are bad, faith makes things so much better.
Welcome back to Noble Warrior. My name is CK Lin. This is where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, and practitioners about living life with greater purpose and joy. What does it take to go from living in your car to reach 5 million followers? This raw and revealing conversation, neuroscientist Dr. Robert Love pulls back the curtain on his unconventional path to becoming one of the most influential voices in health and dementia prevention. From sleeping in a Toyota Camry with only the Baka Bakita and Think and Grow Rich in his name, to losing money on a chocolate business venture, to walking up one morning with his first viral video. Robert's journey wasn't a straight line to success. But this isn't your typical entrepreneur story. We dive deep into the identity shifts and the behavior changes that actually move the needle. You'll discover why he prays before making business decisions, how human design helped him identify his zone of genius, and the specific sacrifices he made to optimize his energy and output. We also venture into controversial territories: the role of psychedelics in high performance, the neurosciences of supplements like lion's mane and alpha brain, and why Robert believes ayahuasca might be the most healing medicine on planet Earth. Whether you're an entrepreneur struggling to find your platform, a high performer looking to optimize cognitive functions, or simply curious about the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern sciences, this conversation would change how you think about success, health, and consciousness itself. Robert, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. We've been talking about doing this for a while.
Yes. Let me start off by asking the big question. You are the most enthusiastic person that I've ever met talking about neuroscience, all kinds of different things. Maybe we'll start right there. Has that always been the case? You've always been this excited about supplements?
Well, thank you. You're very kind. I'm blessed with passion. I'm one of these people that I'm excited if there's air. I'm excited if I'm alive. And so whether I'm talking about health and wellness, whether I'm talking about a book I just read, if I think it's worth sharing, I probably think it's worth sharing with passion. And so I often share things with passion. I'm blessed with pretty good energy and very good health, and I really do a lot of things to maintain my good health so I can have that energy and passion. And I remember when you first remarked on this would have been 2020 during COVID, when I did a speaker series for 8 hours, and you said, how are you enthusiastic after 8 hours of running a speaker series? I said, CK, I loved it. I'm still excited from it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, maybe we start off with your origin story, because you weren't always Robert Love, Dr. Robert Love, guy with 5 million followers. I remember the days when you were just thinking about it. You didn't have anyone follow you at the time. I think it was 2019, 2018, about that time, right? You literally were just thinking about it at that time. So maybe I could go back to that origin story. What has you start on this path in the first place? And if you can be a little open about what was really going on inside your mind. Should I, shouldn't I? Am I the guy to do it? Am I not? That would actually be really helpful for those of us who may still be, not in the 5 million follower mark just yet.
Sure. So first, it's important to know that I'm a neuroscientist, but I'm also an entrepreneur. And so I've tried to share my talents and information with the world in multiple different ways. And so in 2018, I was working with children and adults with ADHD. I have ADHD. I'd worked in that field for a number of years, coaching children and adults, writing ebooks, and really trying to help people manage their ADHD symptoms, ideally with minimal prescription drugs. And it was at that time when I came home to my parents' home in Cincinnati, Ohio, and my mother was having surgery. And I was there basically to help around the house as she recovered. So my dad's a lawyer, still is, so he could continue to do his work. and I could help my mother around the house and keep things going well. And it was at that time that I noticed that my parents' memory was really bad. I was very concerned. And both of my parents, both of them had fathers with dementia. My dad's father, so my grandfather on my father's side, had Alzheimer's disease. It was very severe. And then my mother's father, he had dementia unspecified, actually wear his ring. My mother gave that to me Christmas a couple years ago. He had dementia probably from exposure to dry cleaning chemicals. He was a dry cleaner. He had to drop out of school, or he left school when he was 12 to start working to support his family because his dad left home. So my great-grandfather was not a very good father, but my grandfather supported his family, and in part he worked in dry cleaning chemicals. He got dementia. So essentially, both of my parents have dementia in their family tree, and I became very concerned. And I started doing research, and I found there's a lot of things that we now know, and this is 2018. There's a lot of things that could help prevent Alzheimer's disease. And at that time, I thought there wasn't anything to do. And that's what most doctors thought. And so I started reading and getting into the science, going through Google Scholar. And I learned a lot. I first got the sugar out of the house, and I got the bad chocolate out of the house. And then I had the idea, this is the entrepreneur in me. I thought, well, what's an easy way to prevent dementia? I know, make it taste really good. I'll make a really healthy chocolate. Nourishes the brain and helps reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease. So it's going to replace all unhealthy chocolate with really healthy chocolate. So that was my first company. I actually started at my parents' basement that year. And with funding from them, they actually provided some of the cash for it. So I made healthy chocolate. And I used a healthy sweetener called allulose, which is now pretty common, but it's very hard to find then. I used stevia, monk fruit sugar, curcumin, lion's mane mushrooms, Ceylon cinnamon. I had matcha in there. I had all these superfoods in there, and it tasted really good. But I lost money. It's very hard to make money selling chocolate, certainly on a small scale. But that was my first business attempt in the world of dementia prevention. And then after that, I started with personal clients, coaching and helping them doing the behaviors to help slow down, prevent Alzheimer's disease, and then reverse memory loss. And then this would have been July of 2020. I started posting every day online. I started posting on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook every day, something about how to prevent Alzheimer's disease. And then I woke up one morning and I had like 1,000 followers on TikTok. I said, how did this happen? Well, I made my first viral video. They had like 10,000 views. I said, oh my gosh, that was cool. And then a couple weeks later, I had another viral video. And then now I'm up to, 10,000 followers. I thought, oh my gosh, this is great. So I started recording, just doing a lot of research and recording a lot of content to try to share this message. And I was very fortunate, and I was saying the right thing at the right time. And thank God, I'm here because of grace. I made some good content, but it's because of grace that it caught on and it attracted people. And it was helpful to people. And then my channel grew really quickly. And that was really the start of everything, was daily posting on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. TikTok is the one that took off the most for me. I started really focusing on that platform. And then by January, I started posting more on Instagram and doing more reels. I wasn't doing reels. I was doing stories. And then I learned reels actually do much better. And my reels started taking off. Then my Instagram started growing, and that now it's 5 million followers somehow. I mean, remember, and by the way, you and I are friends from Burning Man. I remember the first year I kind of had a bunch of followers. I had like 50,000 followers at Burning Man. I was like taking time out in the day to try to post a video on there. And I was like just starting to grow it. I was like 50,000. I thought that was a lot. And that was a couple years ago. Now it's at 5 million. And I just feel really blessed that I get to share information with the world that helps people, that helps you live healthier lives.
Okay. So you share the highlights, which I appreciate. However, for it to really be relatable for others who may not be so lucky right at the time, because you hit the hockey stick point probably a couple of years in, right? What was going through your mind when it wasn't really growing and when it was like crickets, right? Because that's the worst thing, that you put your heart and soul and sweat and tear into it, and it's crickets. You like 2 views or 100 views, and how did you?
My first thing didn't work. My first thing was chocolate. It worked. It lost money, and not everybody's meant to be successful in every business. And so you do your best, and sometimes you got to be able to pivot and try new things. Not everyone's supposed to be on social media. Some people write books, right? I'll put out a book at some point. Who's this person? Noah Aval Harari. Puts out like a book a year now. He does some podcasts, but he's not a social media influencer. He's a writer. Yes, I don't do this. I will do this, but I'll do 1 or 2. I'm not going to do 1 a year. But Tony Robbins, he does events. He does books every once in a while, but he does events. He's not trying to publish, other people publish content for him. So not everyone's meant to do everything. I did that for 2 years. And I got investments from family. I got investments from friends. My friend from college gave me $10,000. And we were doing weekly calls. I was really working really hard on the chocolate. And eventually my chocolate machine broke. And I thought, you know what? Even if I sell this, I still don't make money. I need to try something else.
So that was the pivot moment when you say, "Oh, hey, this is a sign from God," or whatever the case may be, and
Yeah,
the
I was making,
chocolate.
and the product was great. People would try it. They'd say, I love it. This is amazing. I want to buy it. I'd say, this is the price. They'd say, okay. And they'd buy some. And even if I'd sell out, I'd still barely make a little bit. I thought, I can't charge enough to actually make this happen. I need to go into a factory, and that costs $50,000, $100,000. And I don't have that. I'm not going to borrow it. I'm kind of stuck here. And I was selling myself, making a mess in the kitchen and so forth. I had a great product, and a lot of people make good videos, and a lot of people have good content. A lot of people have good business, as in like work, like it helps people, but it's just not catching on. Not everyone's meant to be in every business, right? So I had to keep trying things until it worked. And I was trying 3 platforms at once. I was trying TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Oh, and I might have been trying YouTube as well. I don't remember. Imagine I was trying every platform I could to see which one worked. One of them worked. And then I kept doing more of it. And so if things aren't catching on, try to do better, try to improve, and test new things. You know, I'm not an overnight success. I'm 42. You knew me when I had very little money, and I had a very different business. It's taken me a long time to actually build a successful business, but my social media's done really well when I started posting daily on 4 different platforms. I think it was 3. And then finally something worked on one of them, and I kept doing what worked on that one. So if you're just getting started, whatever it is, whether it's social media posting and education, by the way, if you're going to do that, I recommend really making interesting content that helpful to people. Don't make content you like, make content other people want. If I just talked about what I wanted to, I would have much fewer followers, because what I want to talk about isn't necessarily what everyone wants to know. So make informational content that's interesting, that people want to know about, and keep trying new things and keep trying getting better. Learn new things, learn techniques, talk to other people in the business or doing good work, find out what they're doing, and try multiple things until you find what works for you. And it might be the wrong business, right? I was in ADHD, and finally, because of my family, I moved into dementia prevention. And so, and at some point, everyone will know how to reverse Alzheimer's disease. By the way, great book by Dr. Heather Sanderson. At some point, we're going to have clinics everywhere, on every corner, that help you prevent and reverse dementia. And so I probably won't be doing this that much anymore. I'll probably be in the longevity field. So I'll change at some point when dementia prevention becomes more common. So we need to be able to test things and try new things until we find what really works and what works for us. You know, someone could do my business, but they could be publishing articles instead of making social media content, right? So you got to find what works for you, deliver a great product, have good marketing, good education, and do what you love. Do it in a way that I love making videos. I don't love writing articles. If you said, CK, if you said, Robert, you can grow a great business helping people prevent dementia, but you got to write an article a day, I would say, look, unless I can dictate it, no way.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'll do something else, and I'll find another business.
So let me just do a quick pause on some of the highlights. I wanted to make sure that I understand it, so also the listeners can really get, right? Number 1, you're an entrepreneur. You were trying different things. The first thing you tried was chocolate. You borrowed some money, you put it together, but it wasn't a great business. And ultimately, you got a sign that even though people love the product, you barely make any money in doing that. And you weren't willing to take on more investments from friends or family or otherwise to do it. So you had to pivot.
Exactly. A big
And then you
sign,
pivot.
right? My chocolate machine broke. God stepped in. Bam! You can't make any more chocolate. What do you got to do? So, really thank that happened.
Then you started doing ADHD as a niche, and then
Oh no, I was doing that before. ADHD
Got it.
before the chocolate.
Got it. But then you started to notice some signs in family history of Alzheimer's, dementia, and then you took that as a way to not only help your parents, but also obviously because you inherited genes from both sides for yourself as well. You learn a lot about it. And then you started to post video every day once you learn what you learn. It's
But
something that
the chocolate came first. So it was the parents and then the chocolate. That was my first dementia prevention business that didn't work. And then it was posting the videos online. And then it was first was working with clients in dementia, and then it was posting online. So it was a multi-step to get to where I am. I'm sorry if I didn't tell the story in a good sequence of steps that took to get here.
No, this is perfect actually. But then you found a medium that works for you, which is video dictation, and you are very passionate and very enthusiastic. So people find that to be very compelling, right? Versus someone who may be like a Robert Greene, who is a writer, or Yuval Hariri, who's a writer, and they have a different medium. Is that an accurate recap so far?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I found a platform that worked for me, right? I could have been on YouTube doing long form. I could have been doing hour-long videos. TikTok, the shortest one, right? That's the one that worked for me the best. And so it wasn't just social media. It was one of the channels worked really well.
Okay, perfect. So here's the follow-up about that time, because rarely in life that I have found personally is ever option A, and then all of a sudden an inspiration, option B. Typically, especially for really creative, entrepreneur, innovative people, you have many different ideas. You essentially are baking a couple of things at the same time. What in your mind were going on to make that decision? Should I double down on ADHD, or should I double down on cognitive dementia type of topic? Was there any framework in your mind to make that decision? Or you were
Uh,
just parallel at the same time, and then which one ever takes off, you're agnostic about it?
I was agnostic about which channel worked, if Facebook worked and TikTok didn't. But TikTok is what worked for me at the beginning. But if I could do it over again, I'd probably shortcut the process and I would do this. I would pray for guidance. And I do that a lot more now. And I find it very helpful. I find it extremely helpful. And it gives me peace. It gives me clarity about my decisions. And I pray for guidance. I pray to be able to listen to what God, the universe, spirit, source, me to do wants for me, and to help me let go of things that I could do. I could work with XYZ person. I could branch off into this other business, and I could make a video about something that's kind of unrelated. But I get clarity when I pray. And I love this. I don't know if you've seen the most recent podcast with Andrew Huberman and Jordan Peterson.
You told me about it. I started doing it. I hadn't finished yet.
Yeah, it's great. And then in it, Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist who's probably the world's most famous scientist as of today for lay people, he prays before every podcast. And I find that to be tremendously helpful. If someone's struggling to make a decision about what to do in their lives as far as their entrepreneurial adventures, please be open to the power of prayer and then listen to what, or receive what happens. It's not always as obvious as a broken chocolate machine. Sometimes it needs to be that obvious, right? Sometimes it needs to be just hit over the head, obvious, this is not right for you, to get that message. But I think prayer is the answer.
Yeah, if you can double click on that a little bit, that would be very helpful, because you're a scientist, very mental, very cerebral person. Yeah, and then the cerebral process is, let's make a pro con list, let's create some mental model, a business plan as a way to help making decisions. And this process, I don't know when you started, maybe after you started listening to that podcast with Huberman and Peterson. How is it different, and why do you advocate for that?
Well, I was praying before then, but I do it now more. I kind of, in a way, I feel that I got permission to pray almost any decision, including business decisions, that Dr. Huberman does that. And so I was doing it already, but not to the extent that I do now. And he's a role model of mine. I look up to him. I think he's doing excellent work. And so hearing him say it gives permission for me to do it. And I do believe in God. I do believe in spirit and source. I got a bunch of religious books up here, from the Quran and the Bible to the Bhagavad Gita. I used to sleep with the Bhagavad Gita on my side. And there was a point in my life where I was sleeping in my car. I was moved in with a girlfriend and she broke up with me, and I didn't have much money, and I was living in the back of my Toyota Camry. Or I would sometimes sleep outside in the mountains.
What year was this?
This would have been when I first moved to Boulder. This was 10 years ago. So 2014, 2013,
Got it.
2014. And I had the Bhagavad Gita and Think and Grow Rich in my backpack. And that's what I'd wake up in the morning, I'd read the Bhagavad Gita and Think and Grow Rich while I was like in the woods with no money, living in my car. I don't know how helpful it was, except it kept me in a good, positive mood and allowed me to say, hey, you're alive. You just woke up in a beautiful mountains. You had a good night's sleep. And now you're reading this inspirational book and you feel good and excited for the day. This is pretty good. This is really pretty good, even though the bank account doesn't have anything in it.
Would you say at that time that your faith was being tested, or that was, you still had a very strong faith during that time when, your bank account wasn't reflecting on what your talent or gifts or desire to help people?
I did have really strong faith, and I guess it was a test, but I did have really strong faith, because what else did I have? I was like, I had that. I had my health, and I had my integrity. I had my friends. I had my family. I had my faith, and and as far as resources, I had a car, and I had a pretty good education. So that's a long list of things, minus money and a working business and a job. My faith got stronger. I said, God, Said, God, we're going to get out through this some way. And I don't know how. I'd go to the library and I'd bring my Vitamix and like blend my smoothie in the library and work in the library all day, then go back and sleep in my car. This was my work routine for like a month or two. So yeah, I would say it increased my faith. It made it a lot more tolerable. When things are bad, faith makes things so much better.
Yeah, I agree 100%. If you can speak to someone who may be in that similar circumstance, they're optimistic, they want to help people, they're gifted, they're talented, and they have their health, and yet their circumstances, bank account especially, isn't reflecting on how much value or how their strong desire to really add value to the world. What would you say to that person?
So this is an entrepreneur, I'm guessing, who's working for themselves and trying to create value for the world, and it's not working yet. One is you can do this. Being an entrepreneur is much harder than having a job. I talk to friends who have a job. I'm like, oh my gosh, it sounds so easy. Like the work you do. I don't want to say it's laughable, but compared to an entrepreneur, it's laughable, right? They show up 9 to 5 and they have paid time off. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I'm working until 9 p.m. on a Saturday, right? So being an entrepreneur is much harder than having a job. So just know that that's what you're signing up for. And I love it. I wouldn't trade it. Just know that this path is harder for most people, generally speaking, than having a job. And it's perfectly fine to have a job. I have people who work for me. And so you can work for an entrepreneur and do really good work. You can kind of be like a private contractor. If you're struggling, you can do this, especially if it's really important to you. But make sure that you're working in something that uses your skills and abilities. If you're doing entrepreneurship and you're not using your natural gifts, here's a recommendation I would make. Aside from prayer and faith, make sure you're getting good sleep and working on your health. Because if you're not healthy, you're not getting good sleep, your brain's not going to work well. You're not going to be a good employee. Like, so if I'm competing against someone, a version similar to me who doesn't get good sleep and doesn't eat well, I'm going to crush them. I'm just going to destroy them because I'm going to work so much more effectively. But they're going to put out 1 video a day. I'm going to put out 5. One of mine's going to be better. If you're going to compete in the world of entrepreneurship and business, you got to be in good health. Brian Johnson, I just saw Brian Johnson, the anti-aging expert in Miami. I actually got to interview him. And he said, when I was starting Venmo, Braintree, right? So he started Venmo, sold it for $700 million or $750 million, a lot of money. And he said, if I could do it again, I would completely do the opposite. I would eat really well. I would prioritize my health and my sleep, and I would have gotten so much more done, and I would have been so much more effective. A lot of entrepreneurs who pull all-nighters and drink too much coffee, and then maybe they drink too much alcohol on the weekend to take the edge off, that's slowing you down. I would start with wherever you are, start with your health, optimize your health, eat healthy food, get daily exercise, get your sleep. Ideally get morning sunshine when you first wake up, practice some gratitude, and make sure you're practicing your faith, whatever that is, whether it's religious or just spiritual or just giving thanks to source energy. Practice your faith. That just feels good, and that's just pretty much good for everybody. And from there, you'll pray for guidance as far as what field you're meant to be in and how you're meant to contribute. But if you optimize your health first, your work's going to be so much more valuable. And then there's a tool that's really good for finding out your super skill, which I really like. CK, have you heard of human design?
I have. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So I used to be really into it. I was really into it like 3 years ago when I was studying it. It's just a really powerful tool that basically looks at, and a lot of people might say, hey, sounds like bogus science, but it's really powerful. It's amazingly accurate. It looks at your birth time and your birthplace, and it basically gives you a good diagnostic of who you are, your personality, and your strengths. And a friend of ours from Camp Mystic, Cameron, he did a reading for me. He said, Robert, you are really good at communicating ideas and synthesizing them. He said, that's what you're really good at. I said, oh, I love synthesizing ideas. And I love talking about ideas. He said, great, do more of that. And fortunately, that's what I get to do. I do some primary research. I'm conducting a clinical trial in Canada on a supplement, but we're writing case studies from our medical clinic. So I do a little primary research, but much more, I'm reading more studies and synthesizing more studies than I am doing primary research. And so that's really interesting for me. And I'm really pretty good at it. As far as writing, I'm really good at writing review articles because I'll read 30 articles and I can synthesize them and write a really good review article. Some people aren't as good at synthesizing as I am. So get your human design read and find out what your super skills are and try to use those super skills in your business. And once you know them, you see, oh yeah, that's definitely my super skill. Use that. Please use that. You were put on this earth with in human design terms, a very specific human design or your specific zone of genius or a mission and purpose or, in the Bhagavad Gita, your dharma. You have a specific dharma and you have specific super skills that you are good at. Please do what is uniquely you. That is our mission, whatever that is. So find out specifically what your super skills are and then use them. And that is your greatest contribution to the world. And that's also going to feel the best for your soul.
I love that. By the way, I'm noticing that the engine of Robert Love is revving up.
I did get a little bit more excited.
Yeah, that was great. I love that.
I'm drinking the hydrogen water that's getting me all
Yeah.
hydrogen up.
No, this is super good. So, was there something that after you hear about Cameron's reading of you that you stop doing? You're like, you know what? This is not a good use of my time. Let me just give it up altogether because it's a waste. I should really be talking to
Yeah.
camera and just be excited about whatever it is and synthesize and research and communicate. Are there things that
Yes.
you just stop doing altogether?
I stopped writing. I started writing a lot less. I used to read a bunch of articles or read a bunch of ideas and say, I'd read 10 self-development books and think I could write a self-development book. And I could. That's part of my super skill, synthesizing ideas, but writing is not. Much better at speaking. Also teams. I learned that I do better in speaking to groups of 10 or more than like 10 or less for some reason. So I try not to speak to small groups. I try to speak to groups of 10 or more. And that works really well for me. Some people do really well in small, intimate workshops. I do better with more people, or 12 or more, I can run the conversation. If there's 8, I have trouble leading the group. People are straying off and I'm losing control. But 12 or more, I can control the room, which is interesting. I don't know why that is, but Cameron said you do better with larger groups. So I stopped writing as much and doing more speaking. And yeah, I started doing more of what I'm really good at. And then once you know what you're really good at, you can see what you're not really good at. I could just phase that out. Or people would bring things to me. Hey, Robert, why don't you help me with this? I thought I could do that, but I'm going to do an okay job. I'm not going to do a great job at that. And I'm not going to like it. I turned down a lot more things that were not in that specific zone of genius. But
Yeah. So in that case, being an MC for the conference that we're at is exactly your zone of genius. For me, it was actually a stretch because I'm actually way better in smaller groups and the interviewer, conducting questions and, really listening to the space and see what's being communicated with the space versus speaking to really large groups, 50, 100, 150 plus, whatever the case may be. And I did okay. You were definitely more at home than I was in front of the large groups.
yeah, for some reason, I really like being in front of a lot of people. Some people are like, I'm afraid of public speaking. I like it. I like being the center of attention when people are there to hear what I'm there to communicate. I love it. It feels really good for me. Yeah, smaller groups, I'm not necessarily more nervous, but I'm less comfortable. People here, if I got to talk to 5 people, I'm a lot less comfortable than I have to talk to 50. 50 is easy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I don't know why. It's in my design. That's in my DNA. That's just part of who I am. It's not good or bad. It just is, right? So if you're a small group person, work the small groups. Reach people on an individual level or a small group level and really make a meaningful impact. If you're a large group person, try to work with larger groups. If you're a writer, do your writing. If you're a speaker, do your speaking.
Yeah. In our men's group, we talk a lot about character shift, our identity shift, and also behavior shift. So think about who you were 2020, not yet having 5 million followers, and today having 5 million followers. What character or identity shift did you notice? And also behaviorally, what have you changed? And then why you think, let me give you a little, context around it.
Please.
Our assertion in our men's group that we practice is whatever results we have in life is a direct response to our behavior and also but even more importantly than behavior is character. So I'm curious to know from your perspective, you take on that frame, what character shift have you had? What behavior shift have you had that has you be this effective public speaker, communicator, teacher of 5 million followers?
Yeah, I want to tweak something or ask something.
Sure.
So you said the result we get in the world is kind of a result of our actions, of our behavior.
And also character, but more fundamentally character.
Okay, so if I can add my own language to that, and let me know if I'm on the right path here.
Sure.
It's the right behavior for the right character, for the right person. I have a friend of mine who was negotiating a job. He basically inflated his previous job's income, and he went to his previous employer and said, "Hey, I'm negotiating a job for this big company. Can I say I got paid X?" Sure. You can tell him that. And he negotiated his salary, got a great salary, did really well. If I did that, I don't think that would work for me. I think I wouldn't have gotten the job. Or they would have said, I don't think you got paid that. We're not going to pay you that. I don't think that would have worked for me. Because if I asked my body, hey, could I say that to someone, say that I made more money than I said I did? No. The answer is no. And then I'm not saying what he did was immoral or wrong. It just wouldn't be right for me. The right action for the right person. Now, generally speaking, we don't like saying the truth is really important. Jordan Peterson talks about that. If I don't tell the truth, bad things happen. Stuff falls apart. And so I'm very meticulous with my truth telling to the best of my ability that I can. I'm not perfect, but I really try to be as good as I can to speak the truth and deliberately to not say things that are untrue. I have pretty instant karma. Like if I start telling things that aren't true, my car won't start. And then,
Wow.
then my sales page will come down for some reason. And then, I'll get hit with a fine from the IRS. Like bad things happen to me if I'm not honest. So the right action for the right person. So for me, the right action might be recording TikTok videos. For someone else, the right action might be meditating for 2 hours before making content, and it might be writing one article. So I think it's important that the person choose the action that's best for them. I would say there's, generally speaking, not one action that's right for everybody, probably except health-related behaviors.
But I want to drill down onto Robert Love, the old 2020 Robert Love and the new 2025 Robert
Yeah.
Love, in terms of identity, what mindset or identity I've taken on or behavior. And maybe you were
Yes.
making one video a day and now you're making 5 as an example, right? I'm giving some random things.
Yeah. So some
But
things that changed. Sacrifice. I've sacrificed things that I'd like to do to get to where I am. So I like staying up at night. I like staying up at night working. I also like staying up at night watching movies and eating chocolate cake. And by the way, I make a really healthy chocolate cake. So it's not like I was eating junk food, but I was eating like a raw vegan chocolate cake that was awesome. But when I do that, I have a lot less energy for the next day and I don't sleep well and I don't feel good. And so I used to go to bed at 2 a.m. and then I brought it back to 1 a.m. And then every once in a while, when I got ambitious, I'd go to sleep at midnight. Now I'm in bed by 11. That's new. I went to Thailand and I had a large blood panel done, and I went to a longevity doctor and I said, hey, look at my stuff. Tell me how I can improve. He said, hey, your testosterone could be better. I said, what can I do? He said, go to bed by 11. 10. He said 10 would be better. I said, I don't think I could do 10. He's like, well, get to bed by 11 versus 1, and you'll actually have much better energy. So that kind of idea of making small improvements and sacrificing things that were holding me back. So thankfully, I didn't drink alcohol. I drank a lot in college and grad school, but I wasn't drinking a lot. But if you drink a lot of alcohol, maybe think, how can I drink less so I can have better energy and better sleep, right? What are the things that are slowing you down, and how can you let go of them to better improve your health, energy, and well-being? And that'll improve your work, your entrepreneurship, and the quality of your life. So I've been continuously letting things go. Here's another one I'm just working on right now. I eat super duper healthy food, like really healthy food. And I love my dessert. I love my healthy raw vegan chocolate cake. And so right now I'm trying to eat less and less of that, so I have more room for healthy food. I like my dessert and I want to eat as much of it as I can. And I justify and say, hey, this is pretty healthy and you're an adult and hey, you did a hard workout today. You eat as much as you like. But if I eat too much, I'll then feel slow and lethargic for about an hour or two. That's expensive, right? If I sacrifice an hour or two of feeling good, an hour or two of productivity, that's really expensive, especially if you tally that up every day. And so continuously go of things that are not serving my highest purpose, continuously making sacrifices for the future. And it's mostly letting go of things that feel good in the short term, but aren't good in the long term. Eating a nice big piece of raw vegan chocolate cake feels really good now, but about 15 minutes after, I feel full, and then I got to sit down, and then I sit on the couch and watch The Simpsons or watch Rick and Morty until I feel better. Not a good thing to do every day when I could be working or meditating or reading or doing other things. So that's the idea, is finding the things that are slowing me down or stopping me, or things that I'm doing that aren't feeling good. It might be alcohol, it might be drugs, it might be smoking. Whatever it is that's slowing you down, can you let go of that, or can you scale that down so a healthier version of yourself can emerge? And I'm still doing that today, right? I've been sleeping at 11 o'clock basically this month. I've been working on that. Thank you.
job, man.
And then I just saw Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson's so regimented. I'm thinking, how can I be more regimented with my meals so I feel even better, right? So now I have alarms for when I eat. That's a little extreme. It's a little strange. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I don't know how long I'm going to do it, but since I've been doing it, eating at the same time every day, I feel pretty good.
Is there anything else you wanted to say before I jump
No,
into
I
that?
think that's the big idea is sacrificing what feels good now for success later, whatever that is.
Yeah, I want to double click on what you say because there's actually a spiritual lesson there. Because my men's group and I, we were having a conversation on Sunday about this very thing. We were talking about addiction versus commitments. Addiction is something that harms you, and then commitments is something that, align with your purpose, as you mentioned earlier. So anytime that I resolve to my addiction, whatever the case, in my case is scrolling for content. I'm addicted to content, just something that I like, right? The aha moments, the epiphanies, whatever. And what I noticed, I would sacrifice my sleep in order to get that short burst of whatever it is, right? And then the realization that I have, the deeper lesson there is, then the day after, I'm not showing up 100%. So I don't get to contribute to the best of my ability. That's a commitment. Also is people around me, everyone that I touch, move, talk to, whoever, they don't get 100% of me. I'm no longer 100% present. So there is actually a deeper lesson there for me. What I got from what you just said.
Awesome.
Does
I
that
love that.
resonate?
Absolutely. You and I talked off camera a little bit about this. I'd love to get into a little taboo topic, or was taboo a couple years ago. Now it's kind of trending. Is psychedelics
Okay.
and consciousness.
Sure. Where would you
Uh,
like to go with this?
I don't know, but what's been your psychedelic experience, CK?
So I've started this journey ever since my first ayahuasca experience, which was back in 2016, 17,
So
18, something along that
like
line.
8 years ago.
Something like that. Right. And then I'm a constant learner, right? So if I find something fascinating, I'll just do a lot of it. So I actually have probably experimented with various psychedelics, right? Small dose or infrequent, but nonetheless experimented with them 1 or 2 times at least, right? And then these days, for me, is the medicine of my choice is ayahuasca because I just found it to be so enlightening, and I use it in a very intentional way. So it's how do I say this? More and more intentional, right?
Mm,
So probably up to 4 times a year tops. The way I think about it is these are non-specific amplifiers of my consciousness.
mm,
And then I will use it as a way to reset, to really look at, zoom out. What is the reality? What's the truth of my life, watching my entire life on a screen kind of a thing. So that's how I think about it
mm.
today.
Beautiful. How old were you when you first had ayahuasca?
Late 30s, something like that.
Yeah, that's when I started with psychedelics. I think I was in my mid-30s. It was my first experience, which was a 5-MeO DMT, and that was in Boulder, Colorado. That shifted my life. Talk about a turning point. Within a week of that, I was living in Austin, Texas. I'd lost the house I was renting, and I was moving to Boulder, and I'd been in Austin, Texas for 8 years. And so it really shifted things very quickly. It was definitely a life changer. That was a very intense, beautiful experience to where I left it saying, I looked at the people in the group around me. I said, I love you. Like, I know some of you I'm just meeting, but I love you. I can't, as human to human, if we're really connected with our divine self, we do love each other. And you can also say that with animals or any living entity, because we're here on planet Earth together and we have a divine soul. Yeah, we love each other. And somehow we forget that day to day with all the things happening. And then the second realization was, I'm not afraid of death, because what I just experienced was kind of like death, and that was pretty cool. So if that's what's after this, I'm not worried one bit. Like, whatever's after this is probably going to be okay, at the very least, if not really awesome. Which is interesting because, I just went to Brian Johnson's Don't Die event, and his thesis is, I love life so much, I don't want to die. And I want to live a really healthy life so I can live as long as I can in good health. I think he's afraid of dying. Maybe he is. But, it's an interesting idea of loving life so much that I don't want it to end. And I kind of share both. I'm not afraid of death, and kind of as long as I can be here and contribute, I'd like to be alive. If I'm 150 in a wheelchair, unable to talk, unable to move, I really don't think I need to stay in this human body. It can let me go. But if I'm still working, if I'm helping people and making an impact, and I'm 150 in a wheelchair, keep me here. I'm still working. I'm still doing stuff, So that was really powerful for me. And then I dipped my toe into more gentle psychedelics like mushrooms or LSD. It was into my first two Burning Mans. The stereotype of Burning Man is people just go there to drink and do drugs and have sex and dance around. Some people do that. My first 2 Burning Mans, I didn't have any drugs or alcohol. I might have had coffee. And I think one year I had a sip of wine, but basically no drugs and basically no alcohol. And it was fantastic. They're my 2 favorite things I'd ever done was Burning Man year 1 and year 2 up to that point, and no psychedelics necessary. Now the 3rd year, I did take psychedelics, way better, right? Really awesome, especially with the art. If you want, I have some art in my home that really comes alive on psychedelics. And it just touched me deeply in my core. I stayed up all night listening to Mozart on a really great sound system on LSD, looking at beautiful psychedelic art. And I just broke down in tears in gratitude. I thought, oh my gosh, what a beautiful experience this is. I'm listening to some of the greatest music ever written, played by musical geniuses, like the performers are genius. Mozart's a genius, great sound system. And I got this beautiful art in front of me. Oh my gosh, what a joy it is to be alive. And I've had such beautiful, loving, powerful insights on these medicines. And I do believe psychedelics used correctly are medicines. They certainly can be recreational, and they can certainly be abused. I think doing LSD, a large dose every day, is probably not a good idea really for anyone. I think that's way too much. Or any strong psychedelic, doing it every day in a medicinal dose, I think is inappropriate.
As they say, toxicity is based on dosage, right? So even water that we were drinking, too much water or even hydrogen or oxygen, right? It's gonna kill us.
Yeah.
So a big part of it is around dose, and then really what's the intent behind it? As they say, what's the set,
Yeah.
right?
What's your intention behind taking psychedelics? Is it to have fun? Is it to go out dancing? Or is it to learn something about yourself, to get unstuck, to open your heart, to hear the message of God? Why are you taking this mind-altering, life-changing substance? That's what they are. These are mind-altering, life-changing substances that can make a tremendous impact, but you probably want to know what your intention is, and you might want to pray about it and do it with intention and do it with people that are going to hold that space for you. And I don't recommend mixing psychedelics with alcohol. I think that's just a bad idea. I think you just get poor results.
Yeah, one of the things I notice about you, because as I mentioned earlier, is these catalysts are non-specific amplifiers of your consciousness.
Mm.
So the fact that you experience bliss, joy, gratitude says a lot about your normal state of consciousness, because that's
Thank
who
you.
you are. You're a passionate, joyous person who's very grateful to be alive. Am I
Yes.
projecting, or is that
You're
pretty
you're you're
accurate?
you're 1,000%. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And something else I do before taking psychedelics, I clean up my room. Like I do my work before taking the medicine. So I try to be really productive before taking it because I want to feel good about my experience. If I have a bunch of work left, or I have a bunch of unresolved things, or if I'm in a bad mood, or I left a mess at home, I'm not going to feel nearly as good as if I took care of my things before taking the medicine. That works for me. Maybe that's not required of everybody, but that feels really good for me. If I'm going to take this time to be in this altered space to receive something, I want to make sure that I've done my best to prepare myself for that, which for me means kind of doing my work, whatever that is, whether that's cleaning my space or tying up loose ends. So before Burning Man, right? So I take psychedelics tonight. I'm running around camp right before then, taking care of all my stuff. Like I'm tidying up my RV, I'm getting my water, I'm getting all my stuff, I'm getting my playlist dialed in, I'm making sure everything's good, and then I'm ready to launch off. So that helps prepare the space for me.
You're preaching to the choir here. I'm very much the same way. It's about doing the work, tying, I want to be prepared. I wanted to have the right intention. I want to have the right environment, the right setting with the right people. And then some may argue that I'm trying to control the experience. To me, I respond to that, well, I want to be prepared, right?
Yeah.
If I go to camping, I don't want to just show up. Well, where's the fire? Where's the food? Where's your clothing? Like, okay, I forgot it at home. I want
Is
to be
that
prepared.
bad to want to control the experience in some way? You're trying to have a good experience.
Right.
If
Yeah. So
if
to
I don't
that,
drink alcohol before having a conversation with a lover, am I trying to control the experience? Kind of. I'm trying to make sure it's good. I don't want to show up like pissed drunk, having not slept for 3 days, and try to negotiate a relationship conflict. That's a bad idea. So try to go into important situations as your best self, whatever that is. Are you trying to
exactly.
control? You're trying to control, but you're really just trying to optimize, right? You want the best result, and that means showing up as your best self. Ooh, that's what it is, right?
Right. Underline that.
Yeah, I
That's
want to write that down.
essentially what I experienced in that conversation on Sunday. It's how can I show up with my 100% presence?
Yeah.
And if that requires me to take care of my house, wash the dishes, do all the things, yes, I'm going to do that. And then I think controlling, there's some judgment about it.
Yeah,
To
I think
me,
that's
is
someone's projecting on you a little bit because they're not getting their stuff prepared for before going into ceremony, and they're trying to justify it by saying, "Are you trying to control stuff?" Nope, I'm showing up as my best self, and that's what it is.
if whatever needs to show up will show up, right? It's not like I'm trying to control it per se. It's just like I want to be prepared and,
Yeah,
and surrender to whatever shows up. If I happen to see a lot of shadows, and so be it. That's okay. Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna freak out about it and say,
And
"Where
and
is my bliss?" or whatever,
and before ayahuasca, I'm try to eat really. I want to have a really clean body to go into that experience. So I would like it to be as least painful, most joyous as possible, unless grandmother has different ideas of stuff I got to get out of my body or get out of my spirit or my consciousness. I will totally go through the pain to get stuff out of my body that's not serving me. And I want to make sure my body's as clean as possible so that it's as effective and hopefully enjoyable as possible. I'm like, it's worth preparing for these things.
So on that note, I want to nerd out about something that you're an expert at, which is supplements, neuroscientist, and cognitive behavior, whatever is happening, the neurotransmitters happens in the brain. I was having a conversation with UCSF, one of the postdocs, and then specifically, and he actually told me something that was really interesting. He said it's counterproductive to drink coffee, for example, right before a psychedelic type of experience, because the point, if your intention is for a psychedelic assisted innovation session, you want
Hmm.
your brain to be, open, fluid, versus having like a tunnel vision type of focus. So I
Interesting.
was like, oh, that's really interesting, right? So I wonder, for you, what kind of prep work do you do? What kind of supplement do you stack as a way to optimize that
Yeah,
experience?
that's a really interesting question. I used to do coffee on nights when I would take LSD. And that's interesting because coffee is a vasoconstrictor. It does focus things. And coffee doesn't directly increase dopamine, it increases dopamine sensitivity, which is interesting. Nicotine, on the other hand, directly increases dopamine, which is why smokers like to drink a cup of coffee in the morning with their cigarette because they work synergistically together. What I have found works really well, mushrooms, for example. If you take mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms, lion's mane mushroom works really well synergistically with that. Paul Stamets talks a lot about that. He definitely deserves credit for publicizing and sharing the benefits of synergistic mushrooms like lion's mane with psilocybin. Something that I like to do is if anxiety comes online, there's a supplement I really like to take with LSD. It's called aniracetam. It's spelled ANIRACETAM. Aniracetam improves memory. So I want to remember the experience. It also reduces stress and anxiety. And there can be a little on an LSD experience. And so that can be helpful. L-theanine is another one that you can take kind of with almost any psychedelic, except I wouldn't take anything with ayahuasca. I think that medicine, generally speaking, is good just on its own. Grandmother knows what she's doing. She needs no assistance. But L-theanine is terrific for pretty much calming down any psychedelic. It doesn't lessen the experience, but it lessens the anxiety. So if someone's having an unpleasant experience, whether it's MDMA, psilocybin, LSD, to choose your psychedelic, you might need a large dose, like 600 to 1,000 milligrams. By the way, I'm a neuroscientist, not a medical doctor, not giving medical advice. Consult your medical doctor. But L-theanine, very, very safe and very good at reducing stress and anxiety. And there's no counterindications of it. I often take large doses of L-theanine to sleep after a psychedelic experience. Also, B vitamins. What am I thinking? B vitamins and fish oil. If almost any psychedelic you're going to take, if your stomach feels good taking B vitamins and fish oil, that can be good with almost any psychedelic because that's really good for the brain. That's really nourishing for the brain. B vitamins.
Any
And
specific kind of fish oil? Because I know that people nerd out about, oh, do this
yeah,
with,
yeah,
I can't
the one
remember
that I really like.
exactly.
So if you're going to travel, so at Burning Man, probably Nordic Naturals, the pill. That one's pretty good in pill form. And then in liquid form, I like Natural Force Pure Omegas. So I'll take that. And maybe you don't need to take it directly before, but take it an hour before or whenever feels comfortable. Give your brain a boost before taking the psychedelic. Take your B vitamins, maybe take your magnesium threonate. You can take your lion's mane and your fish oil. Just give your brain some nutrients, some protection, and nourish your brain before taking psychedelics. And that can go really well. And then after as well, right before you go to bed, drink some water. Please drink water during your experience, but drink some water. Maybe take some magnesium, some L-theanine, maybe lion's mane if you want to sleep. Don't take B vitamins before bed. They can keep you up. but protect your brain and give it the raw materials to feel really good during the experience and also remember the experience. I really want to remember my psychedelic experiences and the lessons. Oh, and get your sleep. Dr. Huberman shared that if you don't sleep for 48 hours, you actually don't have memory from those 48 hours. So if you stay up at Burning Man for 3 nights in a row having fun, great, you had fun in the moment, but you're not going to remember those things. And so what's the value of that experience if you don't get to remember it for a lifetime? This is why one of my favorite experiences was the mud burn. CK, were you there for the mud burn 2 years ago?
I was not.
So at the
I
time,
missed it.
that was my favorite burn. And a mentor of mine who you know, Eben Pagan, I've been following his work for 15 years at this point. Eben said this. He said, look, everyone who's not here wishes they were here. And I'll tell you why. We are going to remember this. We are going to remember this burn. As long as we're alive, we're going to remember this burn. So the way that we act for the next 3 days, we're going to carry that for the rest of our lives.
Mm.
I thought, Eben, you genius. You're so right. And so I immediately went into best self mode. I'm like, okay, I better be my best self for the next 3 days because I'm going to remember this for the next 3 days. And I really tried my best. And then I shared that message with others. I said, hey, everybody, get excited because what you do these 3 days, it matters for the next 100 years. You get to carry this with you forever. And so what a gift that is to go there knowing that, like, hey, I know I'm going to remember what's going to happen. And so same things with psychedelic experiences. If you go there with the intention of learning something and remembering it, you know, what a gift that is.
Actually, I didn't know of Ayahuasca, actually, or these type of supplements. One of the things I noticed, because I've been microdosing ayahuasca vine by itself. And what I notice is actually interrupts my sleep cycle. It actually lessens my REM sleep. And if I drink too much, guess what? I'm up 2 to 5 a.m. in the morning.
I had trouble sleeping. I had trouble sleeping during ceremony. And then for the week after, I had really interesting sleep.
So have you paid attention to why that is, or, you know, how
I haven't
to
done the research.
counteract that or anything like that?
Both my gut instinct, my visceral instinct, and my cerebral instinct. So all the ways that I think about things and experience things and make decisions, I think ayahuasca might be the most healing medicine on planet Earth. Certainly one of the most healing medicines. And when research is done effectively and research is funded correctly, I think we're going to find all kinds of benefits of it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Whether it's healing chronic disease, whether it's improving gut bacteria, whether it's just reducing inflammation. People talk about reducing anxiety, reducing depression, healing past trauma. Oh my goodness. So when these things are effectively studied, I think ayahuasca is going to be shown to be one of the most powerful medicines for both physical health and mental health, and then however we measure it, spiritual health. I think people will have less death anxiety and greater connection with something beyond themselves, and greater connection to some sort of spirit source, something divine after doing ayahuasca, I guess in the appropriate context. You know this much better than I do. There's great experiences and there's not so great experiences. And so the research needs to be done on the great experiences, not on the ceremonies where it's not done correctly or honoring the medicine the right way. And so I think this is going to be a huge field. Something similar when they legalized in Colorado. Okay, this is really big, but what's really big, so cannabis is marijuana. So what's really big is legalizing hemp. Hemp is way bigger than marijuana. Hemp could be furniture. Hemp is food. Hemp takes out carbon dioxide. It sequesters carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So hemp is food. Hemp is shelter and construction material. It's good for the environment. It grows really quickly. It can be made into all kinds of things. And so, the market for cannabis is what it is. And the market for hemp is huge. And when people understand the healing benefits of ayahuasca, I think it's world peace.
Yeah. So on that note, I want to plant a seed with you that I'm going to be sponsoring some research done correctly around ayahuasca.
Love it.
Along with my business partner. So if you have any kind of leading scholars that you respect, who does research properly, who knows how to create.
I do, and I will contribute with you. I was talking to him about this. His name is Austin Perlmutter. He is sons of this doctor. He is the son of this doctor, David Perlmutter, who wrote Grain Brain. His son, Austin, very cool doctor. I've gotten to meet him a couple times, gotten to interview him. He's doing ayahuasca research. And I said, hey, I can give you a couple $1,000s. He said, thanks. Our research costs like $100. I was like, oh, I don't have $100 for you. but I got a couple. And so he's one person I know.
I mean, I'm quite serious about this, and I actually have someone who will fund the sponsor research. There is a little bit, what we don't have to include this in the podcast. There's a little bit of shall we say, protocol, because Westerners researching ayahuasca without quote unquote permission from the indigenous is like a taboo type thing. So there is a little
Really?
bit of, yes, there's a little bit of getting permission, so to speak, with the indigenous people. But besides that, you have someone good, great. We got someone to fund it. Now I just need to talk to the top shaman that I know and then
Very cool.
get something
I,
going. So
I
so
think
there's
the
something happening.
I think the way that he's doing it is he's measuring people before and after their ayahuasca experience, but he's not setting them up on the experience. They're going having their own experience, controlling how they get it done or where they go or who they see, doing the before and after measurements.
Yep.
And I'll reach out to him
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and tell him and say, hey, I have a friend who's interested in sponsoring some research, and I'll kick in a couple grand too. And I'm with you. Thank you. Fantastic.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I know that let's see, your specialty is cognitive performance, brain performance, prevention. Is it, okay, I'm going to word this question poorly, but just follow me for a
You,
second.
you can word it a couple times. We'll get it right.
Yeah, yeah. So for a high functioning entrepreneur, let's just say, are there benefits from taking the supplements that you recommend to prevent dementia, Alzheimer's, or is it only for people who have your type of family background who needs quote unquote protection from this undesirable, mental condition?
Great question. So the question is, are supplements helpful to healthy adults for brain health, or is it just for people at risk of dementia? The research shows both. So let's take lion's mane. By the way, full disclosure, I have a lion's mane supplement, so I have a financial connection to lion's mane in general, but not specifically to this research. Research shows lion's mane improves memory in both humans and animals. Lion's mane reduces stress in double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. So they had lion's mane and cookie studies. So they gave half the women a cookie, had lion's mane, half the women got a cookie without lion's mane, and they got a cookie for 30 days and they measured their anxiety. The lion's mane cookie group had less anxiety. Amazing. But what's really cool, so those are people not necessarily at risk for dementia, but just have depression, anxiety. Sleep issues, same deal. Lion's mane improves sleep quality. A lot of people struggle with sleep, especially because in our modern world, we have artificial lights and screens, our phones. Gracious. It's so difficult on our sleep. But it also improves cognition. There's a lion's mane study where they gave people a placebo or lion's mane, and then they gave them a cognitive test. So they gave them a test, let's say reaction time. How quickly can you respond to this thing on the screen? The group that took lion's mane did better on the test after just 1 hour after taking it. So lion's mane improved cognitive performance, one dose after just 1 hour. Now, was it a huge difference? No, it wasn't huge, but it was statistically significant. It was noticeable. It might be 20% better. Now, the question is, if you're a high-performing entrepreneur, is it worth it to take a supplement to improve performance 20%? Now, is it worth it to improve it 10%? Is it worth it to improve it 5%? What about 1%? Well, it probably depends upon where you are. So Tom Brady, when he was a professional quarterback, Tom Brady would work really hard with a coach on one small thing that he's doing to get 1% better. Tom Brady's putting in hours to get 1% better because 1% better for him is huge. 1% might be the difference between a touchdown and a sack. It might be the difference between winning a Super Bowl or not. That 1% can make a huge difference for him. So people at the top are working, they'll do a bunch of stuff to just 1% off, right? A scratch golfer, the world's greatest golfer, what would they pay to shoot a one stroke less around? That's worth a lot to them. One stroke for me, that's not worth anything, right? I'm a terrible golfer, but for them, it means a lot. And so if you really value your mind, if you really value your productivity, you probably want to do everything you can to absolutely optimize your brain performance, which starts with sleep. Nothing beats sleep, and nothing makes up for sleep. If you're not sleeping, you're in trouble. You're going to get beat by people who are sleeping. Sleep, diet, eating healthy food, exercise. Those three are fundamental. And then sunshine's in there, and then reducing stress, really important. And you might say community or community, relationships, and religion or spirituality. Those are also important as well. You can group those as three or group them individually, or those are really important as well. Those things are bigger than any supplement. Now, on top of that, if you're doing all those things, you can take supplements to up level on top of that. But if you just maximize or optimize your sleep, your diet and your exercise, that's 90% of the way there, or at least 80% of the way there. And then the supplements can help get you the other 20%.
Yeah, thank you for reiterating some of the teachings here on this podcast. Sleep, diet, exercise is fundamental to just life, enjoyment of life, not to mention cognitive performance. And supplement, as the name indicates, it's not a requirement, but a supplement. If you're terrible at sleep, diet, exercise, guess what? You can't really make up for all the negative setback that you say yourself to. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you have the money, start with the basics. Start with the fish oil supplement and B complex vitamin, curcumin, lion's mane. Start with these. And then if you want to do more expensive things like NMN or aniracetam, things that are more expensive, harder to find, do that. But start with the basics, right? Like fish oil and a good probiotic, creatine.
Tell us about probiotic, actually.
So I got to ask, so I was at an anti-aging conference. I got to ask Andrew Huberman a question. I said, if someone's got their health in order, what are 3 supplements that are really good for the brain for the general population? He said, number 1, creatine. Amazing. We can go into that research in a little bit, but creatine, fantastic for so many different systems of the body, including brain function. Number 2, he mentioned probiotic. Whether you're taking a probiotic supplement or eating healthy fermented foods. So our gut is directly connected to our brain via the vagus nerve. And 80% of the communication is going from the gut to the brain. 20% is going brain to gut. So they communicate back and forth. You want your gut bacteria to be happy. Happy gut bacteria, happy CK, happy Robert, whatever it is. If my gut bacteria happy, I'm much happier. What makes your gut bacteria happy? Fiber from the right source. Interestingly, when we eat junk food, it feeds unhealthy bacteria. And so some people have cravings for fast food. Why is that? Well, because they have gut bacteria that are hungry for that garbage food. My gut bacteria are hungry for broccoli and sardines, right? When I see fast food, I'm actually repulsed by it. The whole body says, no, we want none of that, right? But someone who's regularly eating it, their gut bacteria is like, yeah, eat that food. We love that. So our gut bacteria actually drive our behavior a lot more than you would think. They drive our hunger and cravings and so forth. So those are 2 really important supplements that he mentioned, is a creatine and a probiotic. And then the third one, which we already talked about, is fish oil. So your brain outside of water is made primarily of fat. And if we're going to maintain a healthy brain and actually grow new brain cells, which we can do as an adult, it's a process called neurogenesis, which is the genesis or growth or birth of new brain cells, new neurons. So if you want new neurons, which you probably do, you want to eat healthy fats, so you have the healthy fat to make those brain cells. Dave Asprey, who I learned about aniracetam from him. He did Bulletproof Coffee, great researcher and writer. He shared, do you want a fish oil brain or do you want a French fry brain? Because if you eat French fry, your brain is going to be made of that oil, right? Your body's going to take that terrible French fry oil and it's going to use that to make your brain cells. But if it's going to use that oil to make your brain cells, so it really matters. So eating lots of healthy fat, for example, from healthy fish, really good idea for your brain.
Any specific kind of probiotics that he recommended, or just like natto or fermented like kimchi and things like that?
This is the supplement that I take. This was recommended to me. This is called Aspire. I don't have a relationship with this company, but I've been taking them for a while. I think this is pretty good. I noticed this the second day I took it. The second day I noticed sensation in my head taking it. And then I get the sauerkraut from Costco. Natto, by the way. I was in Japan. I ate as much natto as I could. I really liked it. I know some foreigners aren't into it. I was totally into the natto. That was really delicious. I don't know where to get in the U.S. Can I get natto in the U.S.?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Where? Do I need to order this?
I will send you a link. My fiance
Please.
will hook you up.
I
She
would love
loves
some
natto, and she loves natto with mint leaf together.
Huh.
Yeah, it's really cool. Or it's called shiso leaf or something like that. So, shiso leaf specifically.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that you were looking at alpha brain ingredient, and you said, why is this in this particular pill, right? Alpha brain is one of those cognitive enhancers that's very popular these days. I take them, and I can tell you, I sense a real difference with alpha brain versus without. I don't know why. I don't know exactly what the ingredient is. I just know that I have more words when when I'm doing this type of podcast. If I'm not taking alpha brain and it's very obvious, like just isn't firing as much. So I'm curious.
So
Do you have
I just
any?
looked up the things. I'll tell you exactly what's in it. I think they're all good ingredients. So L-theanine, number one, that reduces stress and anxiety. That's also found in green tea. Number two is phosphatidylserine. That increases acetylcholine activity. Acetylcholine is a very important neurotransmitter involved in memory. I call it the master molecule of memory. It's like if you don't have acetylcholine, it increases the risk of Alzheimer's disease. It's very important. Next is alpha GPC, which is a precursor to acetylcholine. So it helps make more acetylcholine. And then there's something called huperzine A. I actually have a supplement with huperzine A. Huperzine dramatically increases acetylcholine activity. What it specifically does is it blocks the reuptake of acetylcholine. So it keeps more acetylcholine in the synapse, if that makes sense. I can explain that in a little bit more detail. But basically, all three of those increase acetylcholine activity with different mechanisms. And then there's vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 helps make neurotransmitters. All very good. And basically, it's working on one neurotransmitter, acetylcholine, which is a very important neurotransmitter. Now, if you're doing B6, you might as well do all the B vitamins. I mean, I would do B6, B9, B12. I would do at least those three, if not all of them. They don't take very much room in the supplement, and they complement each other. But, Alpha Brain, great supplement. It's done really well. It's helped a lot of people. Great supplement, great marketing. I don't want to say I can't criticize because they're certainly much bigger than my supplement company. They've done very well. If I were to design their formula, I would certainly add more B vitamins. And their formula is specifically for increasing the neurotransmitter acetylcholine and then reducing stress with L-theanine.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Now, as someone really nerd out about neuroscience, especially in the last few years, who is now has quite a few followers, is there any one surprising insight about the brain that you've discovered recently that fundamentally shift or alter how you live day to day?
I think understanding the value of sleep. Sleep is so fundamental. Sleep is when we wire up new memories. Sleep is when we make new memories. And then this is recent as of 2015. We learned about, researchers discovered the glymphatic system, which is like the lymphatic system for the brain. So when we sleep, glial cells shrink and more cerebral spinal fluid. So glial means glue. At first, scientists thought that they were just glue holding neurons in place. Glial cells are actually very important support cells in the brain that support the neurons. So glial cells are your friend. Interesting. Albert Einstein had extra glial cells compared to other brains. His brain has been studied. He also had a specific part of the brain that was enlarged that had to do with music. He played the violin, and you could see that in his brain as well. So when we sleep, cerebral spinal fluid flows into the brain and gives us a literal brain washing, and this washes out plaques and toxins. If we don't sleep well, have you ever had a headache when you don't sleep? My guess is that my theory is that's the brain. But by the way, the brain doesn't have, you can't hurt the brain by whacking it. Like it doesn't have sensation neurons. It doesn't have senses. Like the brain itself doesn't hurt. It can get hurt, but it doesn't have like pain receptors. That's what I meant to say. So you have a headache because your brain is telling you, don't do that again. If you didn't sleep well, your brain is trying to communicate, hey, CK, we like sleep. This is your brain telling you, don't do that again. We are not happy with all the plaque and toxin built up in here because you didn't sleep well. Get your stuff dialed in because we don't like this. Where'd that headache come from? I think that's the idea. I could be wrong, but that's just my little pet theory. So sleep is so important. And if you don't sleep well, you can actually see it in the blood. You can see more plaque in the blood just after one day. And it's so important. And I didn't get that. I didn't get that for a while. And I'm still learning that lesson, right? I'm still working on prioritizing my sleep even more. I'm doing this right now. I'm trying to finish eating dinner at 5 or 5:30, stop drinking liquids by 8 so I can fall asleep at 11 and not wake up and use the bathroom and wake up 7:30 feeling really good. That's like the mission that I'm on, is to still continue to optimize my sleep. And so that's something that it's surprising how big of an impact it has on so many different things.
I want to share one tip with you. It's
Please.
fundamentally shifted how I sleep. So before this discovery, I could only sleep about 6 hours on average. And then after I got this widget, I was able to sleep really high quality sleep as
Widget.
well. So I don't know if you heard this smart mattress topper called 8 Sleep.
Yes, I have heard of it.
So I didn't believe it because my friend's been telling me for years. They're like, oh, I have 8 Sleep, has really helped me, has an alarm, has all these things. I'm like, I don't really need good. right? I have Aura Ring. I track all my sleep level,
I got
but
that.
I
Yeah.
couldn't move past the 6 hours. I couldn't move past to 8 because ultimately between 7 and 8 is what they recommend, and I just couldn't do it. Doesn't matter how early I go to sleep, how tired I get, how much, all the supplements I take, I just couldn't do it. Eat sleep is unique. It discovers something interesting, which is our body is really sensitive to temperature, right? And then throughout the night, the temperature shifts up and down based on whatever your sleep cycle is. And then they will essentially measure it, sense the temperature change of your body, and then dynamically shift the temperature of the pad. So that actually helped me extend my from 6 hours to now 8 hours.
Do you wake up in the middle of the night?
Because I'm still adjusting. I only got this beginning of the year. And I've been, as I mentioned to you, experimenting with drinking the ayahuasca wine in the morning. So that's been
Okay.
dialed in more. And I still take, let's say, melatonin as a way to just help me do all the things, right? So still not 100%, but I can concretely tell you extended my hour qualities and I'm trying to dial in more so that I don't wake up in the middle of the night. Here's actually one other thing that I am testing right now as a way to help me go back to sleep, waking up in the middle of the night. Have you ever had those mantra-based meditation before, like TM type of meditation?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So I started doing that as soon as I wake up. And my mind goes wherever, maybe a to-do list, maybe something that I've been thinking about, maybe a really good idea. And then I would just start my TM meditation. And it's actually been helping a lot to get myself back to sleep.
So doing TM when you wake up.
Mm-hmm. While
Excellent.
I'm, yeah.
Okay. Great.
Because
Really
otherwise,
good idea.
otherwise, up my cognitive mind would be like, time to wake up.
Yeah.
Let's jot down those ideas. Let's put it in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Let's figure, out these
Oh,
problems. Blah blah
yeah.
blah. I like you. I like nerding out on ideas and like, no, my body needs to sleep. Like, let me sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to talk to our brain. Nope. Now's not the time. Now's the time for you to turn off so we can rest you.
Exactly.
That's great.
So,
Thank you for mentioning that. I've been looking at their beds for a
I
little
know
bit, or
it's
their
I
mattress
know
toppers.
it's an investment, but
Yeah,
again,
it's expensive. 2 grand. It's like 2 grand or 3 grand.
But think about what everything that we said so far, right? How much is an hour or 2 hours more worth to you to presence? Your
Yeah, consistently.
exactly,
2 hours of sleep consistently is worth a
ex-
lot, especially if you do that over the long term. If you do that over months, it's worth a lot, but
exactly,
over years, oh my
exactly,
gosh,
exactly. So
oh my
so
god,
for me, it's a no brainer. It's something that I recommend to all my clients.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robert, let me just take a moment to acknowledge you for being who you are. This enthusiastic, passionate of information, teaching and sharing people found through these academic papers, and really taking it seriously to your very, very point that you were just making now. You take this job, right, this public teacher job very seriously because you want to communicate this with a lot of integrity and so that people make conscientious choices that's going to forward their life. We're going to enhance their brain performance, but even more importantly, not putting their physical or cognitive or psychological health at risk, right? To do it with a lot of intentionality and do it at the right time. So thank you for everything that you share here on Noble Warrior.
Thank you so much for having me, CK. This was awesome.